Welcome to those that have just started to join. We will get started in a couple of minutes to give everyone an opportunity to join in. So in the next 1 or 2 minutes, we'll get started. Just give it 1 more minute and we'll get started. Thank you for everyone that's already joined and joined on time. Okay, I think we'll get started. We've got quite a lot to cover today. So welcome to the Helix webinar series. Today's session is on modernising IT with Helix Service Ops. This is our second session. We did run one for APAC on the 5th of September, but we are joined also by another presenter. So hopefully this is going to be an interactive session. So today is going to be presented by Simon Crabtree, who is our Area Vice President for Consulting Services, and he's joined by his colleague Malik Underwood, who is a practice lead also for Consulting Services. So Simon, I'm now going to hand over to you, but before we get started, just a quick reminder for those that have joined. If you haven't used Zoom before, we do have a Q&A section of Zoom. That's at the bottom. If you have any questions during this presentation, please put them in there. We have Malik that will answer the questions, and any that we want to open up live, we will have roughly around 15 minutes at the end where we will take your questions to live Q&A. So with that, I'm now going to hand over to Simon for the introduction and to get us started. Over to you, Simon.
Thanks, Sam. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Malik, thank you for joining, my friend.
My pleasure.
Great to have you on board.
Thank you.
I know you've got a lot to share, and I'm really glad we were able to make this work. Let me get started. So, Simon Crabtree, I'm one of the customer success leaders here at BMC, and we've been sort of tasked with presenting, discussion on how organizations transform and go from surviving to thriving in this digital age. And the answer, of course, is how do we modernize our processes using the technology platforms that we have available to us. In this case, of course, we're going to be discussing BMC Helix and how BMC Helix can be a game changer for you in this particular space. Let's get started. But before we get started, actually 2 things before we get started. First of all, this is going to be a little bit of an interactive presentation. I'm going to be flipping up some AHA slides. So if you've got your phone cameras at the ready, when that QR code comes available, I'd love for you to participate. Please try to join in. And secondly, who can remember the Olympics? It feels like it was already, I don't know, a year ago, when in actual fact it was just a couple of weeks. And so something actually really stood out to me at the Olympics, and it was an American by the name of Noah Lyle, and he is a sprinter, and he was a sprinter who was just fantastic at the 200-meter track, And he basically said, I want to win the 100 meter. I'm going to win the 100 meter sprint. And he did, amazingly. And he won it with 0.005 seconds to the previous, to the other competitor. And I mean, that's just a fantastic feat in itself, right? 100 meter sprint, winning in that amount of time. But it was also a pivotal moment in modern branding, because in today's digital age, Noah was instantly shared, analyzed, celebrated on social media. And so the impact of his win was sort of amplified far beyond the stadium. So his victory turns into this kind of viral moment, fueling his online presence and giving him the ability to connect with fans on an emotional level. And it's, to me, one of the perfect examples of modern technology elevating, of course, in this instance, elevating the careers of our athletes. But it was unimaginable when you think about this 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. Could you imagine 20 years ago the same amplification, the same branding opportunities being available? I couldn't. And so we'll just stick with that for a little bit. Let's just stick with that. Now let's consider something a little bit more IT related, and let's talk about Gen AI, because everybody's talking about Gen AI, and I'm not one of those Gen AI spruikers, but I will say that Gartner has indicated that Gen AI by 2027 will be able to explain legacy business applications and create appropriate replacements. And so just let that sink in for just a second. There's a lot of senior leaders on this call. A lot of you have got transformation programs. A lot of you have got technical debt that you're looking at. And if this is true, and if Gen AI can explain what that app sitting in the data center is that no one really knows about today, no one wants to touch it, no one wants to break it, Gen AI can break down those silos for us, then there'll be no more strangleholds, right? You will get the freedom to do whatever you need to do. Modernization won't be a challenge. And so Gartner has also said that because of Gen AI being able to do this work for us, the cost of performing this modernization work will also be 70% less. And so when you have, things costing 70% less to modernize than you previously thought, I kind of really don't think there's much of a choice at all, right? It's just a bit of a no-brainer. And so let's talk about the third point on this slide, and then I'll sort of pull it all together. Well, BMC has also been working on our modernization strategy and journey. And we have a number of back-end systems that operate our business, just like you all do. We have got the sales forces, we've got the order entry systems, we've got the booking systems, we've got all the systems you would expect us to have in the back office. And what we found is that when we've deployed our Helix platform, and when we've started to look at modernizing our backend platforms and having our Helix platform look after it for us, well, we've been able to prevent 64% of outages. And you may ask, well, how do we know that? How do you know an outage? How do you prevent an outage that hasn't happened yet? And that's, of course, a fantastic question. But the answer is that we have all the data, and we have all the monitoring processes on that data. We have the outages that happened in the past. We have the automations that occurred or that we've executed to fix those things in the past. And we have our Helix platform that is predicting when the next outage is going to happen. based on the metrics that we've got today running through our systems and based on the historical data that shows when outages have happened, and we can take the appropriate automations to prevent that outage happening. So we're really quite proud of this fact of being able to modernize our back-end IT systems to achieve such a fantastic result. So first things, let's move to the AHA slides. If you could all just jump into this code here, or scan the code, or jump into the slides and the URL there. And I'm just going to switch over to AHA. Let's wait for a few more people to join. And what I want you to think of, we're only going to have 50 seconds to answer to this one. When we get there, is I'd like you to talk to just put into the AHA, what's the most impressive modernization that you've been a part of or you've had happen to you in your career today. So, an example that I gave a few weeks ago in Singapore was, I was sort of around during the global financial crisis back 15 years ago, and there was obviously a lot of concern, a lot of issues happening at that point in time, and yet Singapore was still building. It was, towers were going up. The Marina Bay Sands, which is a fantastic complex, had just been opened, and it was just, you wouldn't have thought there was a global financial process. That to me was an example of a really compelling thing. So jump in, and switch is closed. How can this happen again?
Actually, just quickly, Simon, while
here
you're opening it, just a reminder, if you don't have the QR code and you can't scan it, up at the top, you'll see the ahaslides.com/BLUS5. Please type that into your internet browser. That's another way to join.
Thank you, Sam. So come on, team. It's just a simple word cloud. Throw in an example of a modernization that you're aware of. You can be quick. Malik, modernization, ChatGPT, excellent. Yeah, fantastic example. I would also agree. I helped my son with his homework assignment just yesterday. All right, I see we've still got some people that are holding back a little bit. Let's be modern, team, or people. Okay, we've moved to the next one. No problems. All right, okay. Let's see if we get a little bit more of a take on our next thing. So when you're thinking about that modernization or that great thing that happened in your career, tell us about, got to move to the next slide, some of the challenge, what obstacles did you encounter? Was it a lack of resources that people had in your space? Was it a lack of knowledge, lack of motivation? Were there some competing priorities that you had to look at? What happened? What made it difficult? And then, of course, what made it even more satisfying when it came through? Lots of lack of knowledge there. Quite a few responses from people. Interesting. Okay, very good. So I'm just going to switch back to my slide now. Let's see how this goes. Okay. We also see lots of challenges, right, in these modernization projects. And in fact, 45 to 50% of people underestimate complexity, and therefore IT projects fail to meet their objectives due to not understanding this complexity. And if you think about the world we live in today, hyperscalers, hypergrowth, every single, software that you use in your business is in some data center or a different data center, but all working together for your particular organization. Complexity is there, right? It's everywhere. However, typically, when we're underestimating complexity, the impact is time and cost. And so, projects can can sort of manage with that. And yes, there's some impact, time and cost, but it's manageable. Resistance to change, on the other hand, is a little bit tougher, right? I had this is where we sort of have to look to ourselves as leaders to think, well, why is there that resistance to change? Did we not provide enough training to people? Did we not provide enough coaching and support? Did we not really expect the impact of our particular modernization on our workforce? Like, what was the reason? I had an example a couple of weeks ago where someone who was doing some work said, we had to get something done and needed the help desk to fix it for us. And they actually said, I've written an email to the help desk to get it done. And I was sort of aghast because BMC moved away from emailing to the help desk into a digital portal, our own digital portal, of course, 5 or 6 years ago, with everything being self-service and everything being, based on the data you enter into the portal. Sort of emailing the help desk puts you, priority 4, lowest priority at getting things done. I was a little surprised. But I don't know if that was resistance to change, but it certainly wasn't using the change. That's a little bit more interesting. However, probably the big one here in terms of challenges for modernization is that 40% of companies don't align their digital transformation and modernization with business objectives. And this is a significant challenge because what happens here is that there's actually an impact to the board, because typically business transformations are signaled in annual reports and in investor briefings at the board level. And so if we're failing, then we've got boards that are trying to adjust shareholder expectations. And that is a much harder thing to do than just adding a little bit more, time and effort on the cost front. So what about BMC? How can BMC help you in your modernization journey? And what approaches do we have to do that? And how do we do it? So that's what we're going to go through today. So of course, BMC solutions drive, as you have, as we talked about in my story around Noah, a modern, customer-centric point of view. BMC also has a lot of outcome-based projects and programs, and we have success paths that are designed to get you to your outcome as quickly as possible. We also use AI both in our products to make the interaction with the system from a user perspective more intuitive and to give you insights when you need it. And we also have AI on our project delivery. When we're trying to deliver our projects to our customers, we're using AI to adjust resource levels and to make sure that we've got the right resources at the right time on your projects. Let's take an example. Let's look at BMC's modern architecture for ServiceOps. And so the way to sort of read this slide is that all of the things on the left are all the data that comes into our system. So that's your events that happen, or it's an incident that happened, logs, topology of systems, all of those kind of things are data that come into our system. And we have our Helix platform on the bottom that understands this data and routes that data through a series of different AI algorithms to give the end customer the experience they need. Let's just take an example of this. Okay. So let's say you're a service desk agent and boom, an incident pops up in your queue. So obviously there's events that have come through, there's logs that have come through from a data perspective. That's all moving through that Helix platform. First thing it does is it goes through the left-hand side AI, where we look at what's actually happening. So in the causal AI sort of realm, we look at those logs, we look at those events, we look to identify any root cause that we can. And this is before the service desk agent has opened up the incident. We look to identify that root cause isolation. We look to understand the service impact. by using the service models that we have and the topology understanding of your systems. We look to see if there's any similar situations. Where else is this happening in our business? Maybe now or in the past. And then we move over to the right-hand side of the screen, which is our generative AI capabilities, where we actually put this information right up front into the eye of the service desk agent. So we create a GPT incident summary. Okay, plain English incident summary, what's happened, so that the service desk agent can understand it. We would also put it through our best action recommendation. So again, if there's an incident that can be solved rather quickly, or we know how to solve it, then the AI technologies will offer up for the service desk agent 2 or 3 best ways for you to have this particular incident solved. Let's talk about sort of some of these use cases for modernizing your service management experience through a few different videos. Okay, so this particular video here, so we'll talk about back-end users first. We'll talk about DevOps personas who are using the Helix platform to create business flows, create workflows, and orchestrate processes. So in this particular video here, I'm just going to start the video now. What you can actually see is on the right-hand side, Steve is trying to create a new workflow using Innovation Studio. And instead of, in the old way, you would drag and drop, little process flows and things like that onto the screen and connect them with arrows. Instead, he asked Helix GPT, create me a workflow that goes through the finance process, just through text. And GPT has gone through and figured it out. And then it sort of adjusts it also based on text descriptions. Hey, I need to add in Oracle as our procurement system into this flow. Can you please help with that? And if there's a new vendor that's going to be created, can you get it to create a vendor in SAP for us? And then, of course, can you test it? And away we go. Pretty cool, right? I mean, we've got the AI element here is quite interesting. Of course, it is a way to generate this content, but we've also got lots of customers today that are using these processes to great avail. Malik, I know I haven't involved you yet, but have you got any examples of some customers you could share with us?
I do. Thanks, Simon, so much for the introduction here. And what I can tell you, as Simon just mentioned, statistically speaking, change will happen no matter if we want it to or not. And so we look at that from that involvement, and we look at the evolution of change itself. We are not the company we were 10 years ago, 20 years ago. We have definitely modernized processes and procedures and really help customers get to that next level, which they move from an entitled way of how they delivered services before in a historical way and move to a more modern approach. I have a large insurance company as a prime example. They had a 10-year homegrown system who actually modernized and moved everything natively to our platform. It provided a lot of value and proactive measures that they can do with automation. For example, taking a computer-related process, we were able to help them modernize items and get things into our system and our platform, looking at different roadmaps that they're envisioning. They've been trying to get to the same place for quite some time. We have automated asset management. We have automated deployment of those products and those assets. And I can tell you by far, they're expanding and growing because they're really in love with the processes and procedures that we have moved forward and modernized their homegrown system. Simon, back to you.
Thanks, Malik. Thank you.
My
Great
pleasure.
example. Let's take a look at another persona. Okay, so that was the previous persona was a DevOps person or a BA person who needs to create a process flow for their business. Let's take a look at a different persona. Take a look at someone who maybe controls the cab, right, or is in control of the change board. So in very short term on our roadmap, you will see that Helix GPT, I have a video here as well, will be called upon in the change and release process. Now, in this example, what you're going to see is that we've got a number of changes that are meant to happen on a particular day, and GPT will, when GPT is asked, just click the Ask GPT button, Helix GPT button. It will come back with some insights already. And what's been identified here is that of the 30 changes in the queue, there are still 3 that are a little bit risky. And so we can immediately dive down to get more information on those 3 and see what's going on. And in this particular instance, what we're doing here is Helix GPT is basically saying, you know, these changes have been improved in the past, but in the last 30% of times, they've actually had a service level impact. And so what Helix GPT has responded with is maybe go back to the developers and understand a little bit more, should that change actually happen, and present some data to them to help them understand why this particular change isn't being improved. All great ways of interacting with Helix GPT. Okay, next one from, again, we'll look at the persona of maybe someone in your NOC or your SOC. In this particular instance, you know, we've got a Chris. Chris is looking after NOC, and he's noticed that there's some high, you know, there's an incident that's sort of come to him to look at, and you can see that Helix GPT in the middle of here has created a plain English version description of this particular issue, and is on the right hand side recommending different ways to deal with this issue based on how we've treated the same thing in the past. And so in this particular instance here, what you're seeing is there's a high memory that's been, you know, caused by this user process, and the recommendation from Helix GPT is to restart the pod automation and run this, you know, and then also forecast run it every time this occurs in the future. Malik, I think we were talking earlier, and you had another great example, I think, of a customer in North America who was doing something similar here.
Absolutely. So a large hardware store who was looking at different pods or pay machines that they have across the region. And it's very hard to really transition and be proactive about really analyzing exactly what needs to take place. Well, with our proactive incident management, problem management, and our analysis around AI ops, we're able to determine, as Simon mentioned earlier, an issue or detection of items or systems that may be impacted even prior to a ticket being phoned or called in. And so being able to take advantage of that proactive incident management, problem management, they can actually track trends. Our Helix GPT can track trends. Our analysis around proactive problem and incident management and AI ops can track trends and analyze a situation of a hardware failure prior to it even taking place. So being able to do that preventative analysis is very key, because sometimes we often act in a reactive mode, and we know that reaction can cost dollars and cents for upper management. So we really want to look at ways to proactively analyze things ahead of time, proactive. So a large company, a hardware store, is taking advantages of these tools and technologies to really streamline how they do business today. Simon?
Thanks, Malik. So these are 3 very different capabilities, right? That will clearly modernize the way a service management system is used within your IT environment. And quite often customers come to us and say, so Simon, Malik, this is great. You've got some fantastic capabilities. Show us the best way to get there. Show us how we can use these capabilities and roll them out and deploy them in a way that makes sense to our users, in a way that minimizes risk, and in a way that gives me some quick wins, because I've got to prove to my superiors that things are going well here. So we've come up with this framework called Good, Better, and Best on how to deploy the Helix platform and give you a path to get to those ServiceOps use cases that you've just seen sort of in action today. And so Good really focuses on modernizing your service management experience today. And that could be either deploying Helix if you're a new logo customer to BMC, or it could be migrating and upgrading your Helix platform on our SaaS platform. It can be modernizing that service desk, modernizing the end user experience using technologies like digital workplace, smart IT, and progressive views from a service desk agent perspective. It can be starting to work with dashboards instead of the older sort of legacy smart reporting. And I think step number 5 here is critical, and a lot of people miss it. And that is, you've got to start building out service models. And if you're thinking about the best way to do that, then the best way to do that is with our blueprinting technology, okay? Because the service models that you create are then used by the whole application later on down in Better and Best. Once you get into, once you finish Good, of course, we recommend you move into Better. And that's when you start to use some of those AI use cases that we just saw. That's when you start to think about not just IT, but extending, Helix beyond IT, maybe building a process flow in Innovation Studio, like I showed you earlier. Maybe it's modernizing your user experience and getting, all of your catalog items into our digital workplace studio and really modernizing the look and feel of that. And then in the Best, sort of on the very right-hand side here, we really want to extend that AI experience. So we're pushing into deep AI service management use cases like proactive problem management, etc. We're also thinking about employee experience. And by that, I mean BMC's own sort of line of business apps, HR service management, facilities management, security incident vulnerability management, all of those things that are sort of a tangent to IT service management, but are available on the platform. Look, and this next slide just has a whole lot more different use cases that you can expand in the similar sort of frames. This framework, Good, Better, Best framework, is what we're talking to all our customers about when they're asking us, how do we get to ServiceOps? How do we deploy ServiceOps? And I'd encourage you to leverage it as well. Let's take a look now at, let's take a look now at another use case. And in this particular case, we're going to flip the switch. So we're not going to look at the back end anymore. We're going to look at the front end sort of experience. And so what you've got here is an end user. So in this particular case, this is Steve, and he's actually the customer of a telco company. And so let's have a look at how Helix GPT will be integrated into the BMC Helix platform to really showcase and provide value to Steve, who is the end customer of the telco company, with the issue that he has. So first of all, Steve logs into the service portal using his mobile phone and jumps into a chat session. And he reports that he's got a billing issue, and he needs obviously to help resolve his billing issue. Now, the first thing that our assistant does is it comes back with not just hey, you really want to report a billing issue, but it starts to give insights already. The last bill amount you paid, the fact that we know what your plan is, we know how many devices you have. All inside information that obviously Steve already knows, but it's good to know that we know about him. He then starts to talk about, well, I've been charged for an international phone call that I don't think that I made. And it was in the March bill, and it was $140. And then we go through a little bit of a dialogue here around, what was the call? Why is it why is it an issue? And finally, Helix GPT comes back with, here's the resolution for you, Steve. First of all, we've logged an issue for you, we've logged an incident for you, and it gives the incident number. And second, here's access to our refund policy in case you want to quickly click on that and explore the refund policy for yourself to understand your rights. And of course, here's the incident that's been created for Steve, and so on and so forth. So that's pretty interesting. And of course, you've got the knowledge article right there. Now, we've had a lot of customers do a lot of work with us. Let's play the video again, but it'll finish in a second. I've had a lot of customers done a lot of work for us, particularly global organizations where they've had 2 or 3 or 4 different service desk systems around the world, and we've consolidated those down into a single global instance for them. And that's where they're really saving money on, having standardized processes. And what you're seeing on the screen here is an example of just that, standardizing a process that can be used across the globe rather than, in bespoke, say either division or country-based, service management processes. Let's have a look at the other side of this. Okay, so here we have Oliver, who's actually on the customer service side, and he's actually picked up the incident that's come to him. And I guess there's a few interesting things here that you can see straight away. So first of all of the chat information has come straight through to Oliver. And it's also come through with some insights for Oliver based on the conversation that was had with Steve. And the insights are around, here's the actions that you should take, Oliver. So first of all, send this incident to the NOC for investigation. And here's some options for you based on the policies that we have here around how you could A, refund for Steve, but B, also provide a little bit of added incentive so that Steve stays as a great customer for us and doesn't walk away. So that's a little bit interesting. And I think, a lot of customers that we have use these chat interactions to great effect. We have a big retailer in Europe that's had over 80,000 chat conversations and has resulted in a 36% deflection rate. So that's a lot of load off the service desk that's being handled natively. All right. If you could jump back into the AHA slides again, we're going to flip over and do one more question. We'll see if I can get this one right. Okay, hopefully everybody's there. Okay, so as you jumped in again, tell me which of these modern Helix use cases excite you the most? Was it the AI-driven self-service? Was it AI ops using the best action recommendation features? Was it making sure the change and release processes are, and the confidence building around those change and release processes based on the insights we can provide you is interesting? Was it the workflow designer and Malik's example there that he gave for a large organization in the US? Or is it the fact that just, on your screen, you're looking at the incident summaries, and you can see how Helix GPT is really sort of embedded. It's not an open AI chat GPT kind of just chat and that's it. It's what we've tried to do with our GPT kind of integration is really make sure it's integrated into the product so that you don't even really see that it's there. There's no like direct chat interface. It's providing information for you when you need it, where you expect you need it. And I think that's a pretty modern experience. Okay, let me flick back to the presentation. And let's talk about some customers that have done this before. So TalkTalk is one of the leading UK fibre broadband organisations. Services approximately 96% of the UK across retail and wholesale, and therefore is a critical sort of national infrastructure. Been working with BMC for 15 odd years and have recently moved to our Helix SaaS service. And I think you can see from some of the items at the bottom of the screen here how successful that has been. They've increased their root cause identification up to 90%. They really use the platform from a change perspective, executing 250 technical changes per week. And we were able to migrate in a very short amount of time, in just 18 weeks. So that's a great result. BMC is another customer. Of course, I mentioned earlier, we use our own products extensively at BMC. And I know I talked earlier about the outages that were prevented, but have a look at some of the other stats here that we've been able to achieve in the last 12 months. A 60% MTTR reduction is fantastic. And we have over 1,034 monthly automatic remediations. That means that our DevOps and our SRE teams are able to be more productive. And if there is an incident, they're able to quickly traverse and get the log or the insight that they needed to help them fix the problem, rather than having to spend hours trawling through things to try to find, that one bit of information that might help them. Malik, before I move on to my next section, did you have another organization you'd like to discuss and how they've used our good, better, best process?
Absolutely. Simon, I'm excited about this customer because it was a direct competitive replacement from Freshworks. They're a large real estate company, and they were skeptical initially because with any new product, they were skeptical. So they moved 4 companies onto our platform initially. And because of the process realignment, the recommendations on process adjustments, and the speed in which we onboarded them to our platform, they decided to move 66 additional companies onto our platform. And they had the question, because they have multiple companies in different realms, will we be able to handle Azure and Google login specifically? Not only did we handle many different realms, we were able to modernize the way they onboard customers. And so I'm excited to see that they have taken advantage of the platform that we have. They not only moved to our platform, but they took advantage of the financial aspect of it, the HR, the legal, the settlement, other lines of businesses, to ensure that it's not just IT specific, but really a platform for every line of business. And so I'm excited to see and look at the growth, and looking that they're moving to portfolio management yet soon, and eventually AIOps. So very, very exciting times. We take advantage of starting first with the good, of onboarding other customers, the better aspect of it, onboarding additional customers, and then taking advantage of the product lines, the proactive problem management, incident management, things of that nature. So I'm excited to see where this customer is going. Simon, back over to you.
Great example. Thanks. Great example. Thanks, Malik. We've presented a lot of stuff today, right? Frameworks, new use cases, new ways of using the Helix platform. And quite often, a number of people say, so what does this mean? Where do we go from here? A reminder, we have this best practice framework that can guide you on your journey to getting the most out of the things that Malik just spoke about, and some of the customer stories that I've spoken about earlier today, to get the use cases that we're talking about for ServiceOps. And you may ask, so how do I get there? That's a great framework, Simon, but what do I do? How can I help myself? Of course, we have a whole lot of education materials, and I imagine a number of you as our customers would have either education credits or you've purchased one of our success subscriptions that includes education in it. And so there's a whole lot of education here that you can self-learn in order to achieve the capabilities and benefits that are listed on the left there under good, better, and best. So I encourage you to look into this training. The second way, of course, is that you can get some help. Our professional services team has a number of different service offerings, and in our success subscription mode, these are all available for you to consume as catalog items, and you can just continue to work your way through those. And if you feel that you've got the necessarily capability to do it in-house, fantastic. If you just need a little bit of help to get something over the line, even better. We're more than happy to help. But all of this stuff from the good, better, and best framework is available for you today to take advantage of. And so, in closing, a couple of things for me to sort of talk about. So first of all, when you're thinking about modernization, when you're thinking about transforming your business, be bold. Be like Noah Lyles. Be that brash American. Be bold in your vision statement, and then step out of your comfort zone. The platforms that we can offer you today, tried and tested. We've talked about a number of customers that are already doing these things. Bold moves lead to transformative results, and that will set you apart in a rapidly evolving landscape. Second, think about the quick wins. So bold moves are great. You want to have that bold vision. It's crucial, obviously, to also show success and show success early. One of the reasons we've built out the good, better, best framework is that it's not a big bang approach. It's a get wins on the board as you go, show value, give back to the business, and move on to the next thing. And of course, from a herd mentality perspective, that's why we designed the good, better, best framework. We want you to follow our best practice. We want you to follow what other customers are doing to get similar results or even better results. Now, we've spoken a lot about Helix GPT today, and there's some really fantastic things that BMC is doing in the Helix GPT space. We have an assessment, and we also have some education available on that. It's a very quick course. I think it took me about 4 hours to do, and I would really encourage you to undertake that course. We've just released it, and it will really help you understand the power of Helix GPT and how you can use it on your Helix platform today. Now, we have a lot of all of our webinars and things are published on our YouTube site. Feel free to look there for more. Sam, I was going to hand it over to you to see if we had any questions from the audience for Malik or myself.
Thank you. Just quickly on that before we get to the questions. So today's session, I will be in the next sort of 24 hours or so be posting it to this site. We do have quite a lot of other YouTube channels. So depending on what webinars you've been joining, there'll be a different channel for our products. We have grouped a lot of stuff under Helix ITSM and Discovery, but there are other playlists that you can find. So I would encourage you to go there. You will be receiving a thank you email, which will share the actual YouTube link. We will share the slides that we've shared today, and any questions that come up. If they're helpful and useful, we create a blog post. That education, I will speak with Simon to make sure I've got the exact link, and I'll share that for those that want to sign up for that education and training as well. So yes, just going on to the questions, we do have them. The first question has come from Andreas, and Andreas, I'm just going to unmute you because everyone has been muted while you've been kindly presenting, Simon and Malik. So while I go to unlock everyone so they can speak also live with us, the first question that came in is, are there any AI capabilities for BMC Discovery, i.e. pattern writing, tracking discovery issues, reading logs, etc.? And Andreas, feel free to come off mute.
I'd have a crack at that one first, and then I'll let Malik have a go. But I think actually our blueprinting process is, if not doing that already is definitely heading down that path. We want to use our blueprinting process to make discovery easier and to do deeper discovery, to really understand the intrinsic connections that are happening in your service topology. Malik, any thoughts on that one?
Yes, just to add to that, just to really understand, how sometimes things can be nebulous by doing it manually, where we do that analysis, that direct connectivity, and the relationships between the different CI. So discovery, blueprinting, and the aspect of that is really moving into that generative AI capability. And so where we are right now, being able to analyze those deep connections, the key there is to really ensure that you don't have to. We can analyze exactly what's about to happen, even at the lower level. So being able to take advantage of that technology is absolutely where we are and where we're headed. Any additional questions?
Andreas, I don't know if that's covered what you were expecting or whether you've got anything further. If not, we can move on to the next question. Feel free to.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you.
Thank you, Andreas.
Yeah, thanks for your question. Okay, so the next question we've got is I'd like to, okay, it's anonymous attendee, but they're just saying they'd like to share the slides. We are a BMC AR system shop looking to migrate up to Helix. Would you email them out to the attendees? And I can actually answer that question because it's not technical. Yes, we will be sharing all the content today. I don't know, Simon and Malik, if there's any other content you feel is useful. Obviously, I know you'll be sharing that with me and I'll include that in the thank you email.
Thank you, Sam.
Okay, we don't have any other questions, so I would really encourage if anyone does have any questions to come off mute. I can see, Michael, you're not on mute at the moment. I don't know if you had a question.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Just be ready to ask.
Michael, ask a question. Ask away.
No, I'm quite it just upgraded to 23 and you're proving AI and doing first tests on our dev and QA environment.
Nice.
And we're coming. We will do it soon, and maybe first question will comes then.
Very good. Good luck. Sounds like you're
Yes,
on a great
thanks.
path.
Yeah, we are really looking forward, but we have to fill up the database with knowledge and past tickets.
Sure.
But I really looking forward to get rid of the old CIs we have in the CMDB, and maybe we get some support from AI getting rid of these old CIs.
Well,
That
a
would be
lot of our
helpful.
customers are using our blueprint process. Michael, you should check that out. It's a way of, discovering things faster and using a templated approach. Check that out.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. And what we recommend, Michael, is looking at the analysis, the real-time analysis. And so you can look at historical data. That's great. But if it's not real-time or updated, it's out of date immediately. So
Yes,
as Simon mentioned, really take advantage of the blueprint and the different options that you have there.
Yes, in the past, I does it manually, check the last modified date and things like that. And yeah, it's always ongoing job.
I mean, if there's any
Thanks
content.
for contributing, Michael.
Yeah, and if there's any content that you need any help with, obviously a lot of these webinars we're scheduling, certainly with Simon and Malik and their team, we will be doing that to focus on helping people to transition. Plus, I work with a lot of the product managers. So if there's anything around blueprints, we know that's a hot topic. So there's more coming down the line. I have only had last week a customer and a partner join a session with me to say what they would like to see around custom patterns because they've got certain topics they're struggling with. So Michael, feel free to reach out to me if there's anything else you feel that you need any help with.
Yes, I do.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. So we don't have any other questions. I'm just having a look. So we have like 5 or 6 minutes left. If there is any other questions, people, you can basically put your hand up or you can put something into the chat. Otherwise, we will close early. I see one's just slotted in very
Yes.
quickly. Is there a clear roadmap to migrate from AR System 2002 to the Helix offerings?
Absolutely. There is a direct path. And from that upgrade strategy, that process has been tried and tried again. And it's done hundreds and hundreds of times. And so we have a clear process that we can assist you with from going from AR System 2002 to our latest and greatest.
So hopefully whoever asked that question, that's answered your question. Otherwise, feel free to come off and speak to us live if you're still on. Great question. Okay. I think with 5 minutes left, Simon, thank you very much for your presenting, and Malik for co-partnering and hosting today. It's really appreciative. Hopefully our audience has found this useful. As mentioned, we will be running some future sessions. If there's anything topic-wise of interest, I'm always looking for new content. We're already building up October and November. So if there's anything that you'd like covered off or it fits in mind some of your planning, feel free to reach out or fill in the survey that will come with the thank you email. But we will get that out to you in the next 24 hours or so. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a good rest of the day and hopefully see many of you soon. We have a GPT session tomorrow, in fact, 2. So if you're interested in service management, come and join either at 7 a.m. in the morning BST, or we have another session being run in the afternoon. And I have 2 of our product managers, Kapil and Harshad, that will be presenting it as part of our GPT monthly series. So hopefully I might see a few of you tomorrow. So thanks, everyone.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.